Ladies and gentlemen, this is El Cochino, Tom Lawler, and I'd like to welcome you to the podcast that puts the lotion on its own skin, LuchaWorld. Bitchin'.
Welcome everyone to LuchaWorld Podcast episode number 100. Fredo Esparza here. Yes, it's our 100th episode. I don't know if I had anything planned out for this just because a lot has been going on over the past couple of weeks. I had a trip to Vegas not too long ago. Really just been busy the past couple of weeks, really. And there's been a lot going on in Lucha Libre. And Kurt was on a cruise for about a week or two, I think. So I doubt he's watched anything. And there's been a lot that's happened from Rayo de Jalisco passing away, Rayo de Jalisco Sr. I should say that because a lot of people were same thing that happened with Piratita Morgan when he passed away. When Rayo de Jalisco Sr. passed away, there were a lot of people who were like sharing memories, and it was like, no, you have the wrong Rayo de Jalisco, friend. That's the wrong one. Rayo de Jalisco Sr. was the one that passed away, and also Picudo, El Picudo passed away recently. Also, one of the long-time AAA mid-card guys who was around. Like if you watch AAA from when it started all the way through 2012 or even later when he was part of the Inferno Rockers, you probably had a chance to see him. Then there was a lot that's gone on with CMLL and AAA. We've had a couple of anniversary celebrations for Atlantis earlier in the month of July. Then this past weekend, Negro Casas' 40th anniversary celebration happened. A lot of independent talent appearing in CMLL, but also appearing in AAA. We've had guys come and go from the promotions, guys and gals really, with Zeuxis also kind of moving on as well, not just from CMLL but AAA, but also going to be in the Mae Young Classic. A lot has gone on, so let's start off with CMLL because that's really where everything kind of. It's still very strange to watch the independent talent, especially Penta Zero M, Rey Fenix, King Phoenix, however you want to call him, LA Park, Hijo de LA Park, and Clan Chaos appearing on those shows. I could skip through the Clan Chaos appearances because I think I skipped one of their matches, but they had one match. They had one match that was actually pretty good. I think it was the first one that they had with the Guerreros Laguneros, and then right after that, everything else that they've done has been really bad. They haven't been very good. I think Cibernetico is probably the one that tries the hardest, but he's not good. And the Chris El Zorro is pretty much, he's not at the level of being on a CMLL show, or really he probably fits into the group. He might even be worse than Best the Ring. Same thing with Charlie Rockstar. Well, they're all probably about the same. Just not very fun matches to watch. I think I think the Chris's best thing right now is that he's doing his promotion, Chaos Lucha Libre in Monterrey. I think that's really where he should be focusing more. Although I think making an appearance here and there in CML, I kind of wonder if they would actually be okay, if they would be better off booking them like in one of the other non-Friday shows, just because I don't think they're at the level of LA Park or Penta or Phoenix as far as drawing ability. But that's CML. They have guys that, for whatever reason, although these guys at least have a name, but they have no they don't mind having these really bad workers anywhere on their cards, which that's fine. I mean, there's some fans who they're more casual than that, so they don't really delve into the whole whether someone's a good wrestler or a bad wrestler. Especially if you're on YouTube, if you ever see some of the comments, some of the people that they think are good wrestlers are really bad, and then there's some that are really good that they think are bad. So everybody has their own opinion on what's good or bad. The July 13th CMLL show was the show that featured the Atlantis 35th anniversary show. Really, that was actually a lot weaker than the Negro Casas one. They didn't really stack it up. I kind of mentioned this on Twitter that I kind of felt that while they honored Atlantis, I kind of think because Atlantis still gets the big main event spot on anniversary shows, the CML anniversary shows, that I don't think they made as big a deal for him as they did with Negro Casas. Where Negro Casas, there was so much more. It felt more like a celebration, whereas Atlantis was like, yeah, we're doing another show where we're honor. I think they might have already done one for Atlantis. Well, whenever they do Legends, it kind of feels like they're just adding Atlantis in that, so it doesn't make a big difference. But that show, I think really the best match was really the fourth match that had Dragon Lee, Mystico, Caristico versus. Actually, there was two good matches. Now that I remember, that trios match with what I said, Dragon Lee, Caristico, Mystico versus Barbaro Carbonario, Negro Casas, and Gran Guerrero. But the main event also happened. That's where the Russian El Terrible won the CML World Tag Team titles from Volador Jr. and Valiente. I thought that was a pretty good match. The Atlantis anniversary match, Ultimo Girl was a machine in that match. Really, he was the one that was really doing everything in it for everyone. Atlantis teamed up with Octagon and Rayo Jalisco Jr., and they really didn't do that much. And Ultimo Guerrero was really the standout in this. I think that's also what you'd notice with the Negro Casas anniversary show, where Negro Casas was far and away better than the rest of the guys. In this match, Ultimo Guerrero was far away better than the three technicals and his two partners, which were Fuerza Guerrera and Mascaraño 2000. I still don't understand why Mascaraño 2000 is still wrestling so frequently on CMLL shows. He's not good. And if you're gonna use him as a legend, you probably shouldn't use him all the time on shows. It kind of wears out his appearances. But that's CMLL. They have so many shows. But I thought that show was pretty good. Then they had a run of, I think the 2 weeks that followed, the shows the following 2 weeks, they kind of were a little more underwhelming. The July 20th show, the highlight match was the semi-main event that had Caristico, Dragon Lee, and Mystico beating Barbaro Carbonario, Negro Casas, and Penta El Cero M. That was actually really good. That was a good match. But other than that, the rest of the card was kind of weak. That was one of the shows that was headlined by the Guerreros Laguneros versus Clan Chaos, and really, I know all these other guys want to feud with Clan Chaos, but I think we've had enough of them. Give us a little break. Unfortunately, I think we're probably gonna get more from them at some point. But it's kind of cool to see Penta El Cero M on these shows in CMLL. Very different from seeing him in AAA. But that was all right. I skipped the July 27th show. I watched the first 4 matches and I thought they were pretty good. But the last 2 matches, from everyone I heard, they said it was bad. They were bad. I was in Vegas, so I was rushed for time, so I just watched the first 4 matches. I thought they were all right. I think there was a show, it might have been the 720 show, that had Cuatrero versus Mephisto in a match for Lampago. It was so bad. I mean, I don't know what happened. It was kind of felt like Cuatrero's like this new age Rudo. The problem with the match is that when the Technicals have a match for Lampago, a Technical versus Technical match for Lampago, one of them tends to be a little more Rudo in the match. And when the Rudos are working the match for Lampago, they both want to be technical or more babyface. Or clean, the match is going to be a little cleaner. And I kind of felt that just really it just became a boring match. The fans just hated it. The live crowd booed it and everything, and it wasn't good. It was really bad. So the big CML show of the past couple of weeks really was the August 3rd Arena Mexico show this past Friday. Negro Casas celebrating his 40th anniversary, and there was a lot of build up to it with people asking Negro Casas what match he wanted, and everybody was kind of hoping that he would have picked something different, and he ended up picking. He actually said a bunch of different things. He said he would have liked to have wrestled Dallas, his wife. He would have liked to have wrestled some of the undercard guys. He even suggested one of the minis. I would have preferred. There were some of us who said that he should wrestle Microman. That probably would have been a lot better than what we saw. This show was actually really good. I will say the 40th anniversary show was really good. You should go out of your way to watch it. Really, the worst match on the card, I would say, was the Legends match. But that's kind of what you would have expected because these guys are a lot older. And Negro Casas is really the one that's really still at a high level. I mean, it's amazing that a guy could be, 58, 57, 58 years old and still be considered one of the best performers, best workers in the business. Because, I mean, you could still put him in there with Penta Zero M, Rey Fenix, Volador Jr., Rush, Dragon Lee. You could put him in there with all those guys, Caristico, all those guys, and he's still capable of hanging with them. Aramis, he's wrestled against on the independents. Soberano Jr., he's wrestled as well. I mean, he's wrestled all these younger guys, and he can still hang with them. And I think there was I think his expectations was that he could maybe pull something out of some of the guys, and he was kind of, I think, hoping that Blue Panther could get some more out of these guys, and it didn't work out that way. I'm gonna start with the opener because I'll get back to this match, but I'll start with the opener. The opener for this show was Audaz and Fuego beating Templario and Virus. Really good tag match to start it out. I think it's probably one of the 3 best opening matches we've had in CMLL. Normally we get these really bad openers, and I would say from you could pretty much skip all the Tuesday and Monday openers because they're usually awful. But primarily the Friday shows are where you're going to find the good openers. I would say it's probably one of the 5 best openers of CML this year, and that's not probably saying a lot because there's really only been like 4 or 5 really good openers this year, if you're counting the big shows and I think the first opener. I think the best opener of the year was probably the first week where it had when they had Audaz changes his change into Audaz. I can't even remember his old character really. That tells you how much he's done, how well he's done as Audaz. But this was really good. I kind of wish this would be something that was more frequent. I also think some of these guys that are lower on the card in CMLL, like the ones that are talented, they wouldn't mind working openers if they were allowed to actually do good stuff and like show that they have talent. That's just me because, you hear these guys and the biggest issue they have is that when they're working with the same guys over and over again or against really bad workers, it gets repetitive and they don't get to show more. They don't get to be more they don't get to enjoy themselves a little more. And I think that's something CML should really consider changing up underneath. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. The second match was Angel de Oro, Niebla Roja, and Blue Panther Jr. beating Mephisto, Hefesto, and Luciferno. I thought this was okay. Probably the second worst match of the show. Blue Panther Jr. coming off of his horrible previous performance where he slipped off he was doing the ramp jump and he slipped off his foot stepped on the guardrail, and I think he slipped on that portion of that part of the top part of the guardrail when he was doing the dive, and he just fell. Tiger made fun of him afterwards, but in this match, he was probably the worst on the card in this match. But so were the Hijos del Infierno. They were pretty boring in this as well. The Chavez brothers, Angel de Oro, Niebla Roja, were very good. I think they have something. Unfortunately, I think CML is probably going to keep them there. I actually think they would be a pretty good tag team to feud with Rush and Terrible. But CML they pretty much just book for the Friday show, and it's basically that top match, those top 2 matches that get booked well, and everything else is just random stuff that we see one week, and then it discontinues after a couple of weeks. Sometimes we'll get 2 weeks worth of the build up to a title match one week, and then the title match the following week on a Tuesday or on a Puebla show. But you don't really get a lot of interesting feuds, just the 1 or 2 week feud type of deal. But Chavez brothers looked good. Rest of the guys didn't. The third match was actually pretty good. Caristico, Místico, and Hijo de LA Park beats the Nueva Generación Dinamita, Sansón, Cuatrero, Forastero. This was good. Hijo de LA Park, I actually think that because he's getting so many more bookings because of his dad working in AAA and CMLL, not just booking on independent shows, but getting booked in a variety of matches because he's getting the CMLL guys plus the AAA guys and the independents. I think he's actually starting to look a little better. I don't think he's ever going to be at the level of his dad, but he's at least looking good, as opposed to what he looked like when he first showed up in CMLL, where he just looked completely lost. He's kind of every week that I've seen him, because I've seen him also in AAA. I kind of see that he looks a lot better in the ring. He's not he's not the worst guy in the business. He's actually pretty good. The fourth match was the Legends match, the Negro Casas 40th anniversary show match. I think really, if I was Negro Casas, I would have asked for like my top 3 rivals of the most recent couple of years, and maybe had it been, Rush, Volador Jr. and Blue Panther versus him, and maybe Barbaro Carbonario and LA Park, or some sort of combination like that. Unfortunately, went with the Legends, and he kind of explained the logic behind it, where he was teaming up with it was going to be CMLL versus Independence, and he teamed up with Atlantis and Blue Panther versus Fuerza Guerrera, Octagon, and Solar. His thinking was he's never seen Atlantis versus Octagon. He's never seen Fuerza team up with Octagon. And he just thought it would be a fun mix. Before the match, they actually had a really cool ceremony where Dallas was part of she was part of the dance number with the Diosas del Ring, and came out and surprised Negro Casas. They danced a little bit. Then they brought out his daughters and his grandchildren. I don't know. I know Puma King was there, and I think Tiger was as well. And I don't know if Psycho Clown was allowed into Arena Mexico. He might have been wrestling at that day, because those guys are everybody's booked elsewhere. But Black Warrior Jr. was accompanying. He's dating Omi Casas. So that was the family. His little grandkids, his 2 grandsons, had they were only wearing trunks over their diapers, and it said 440. I thought that was kind of pretty cool. And Negro Casas played around with them also. Sofia Alonso was there to award him a plaque and thank him for being a part of CML for so many years. Negro Casas then stayed. Then we had the match. And the match, actually, they decided to make it 2 out of 3 falls, which I thought was a horrible idea. They should have just done 1 fall. They did not look good. And I think if they're going to go Atlantis versus Fuerza Guerrera for the anniversary, I think a lot of us were thinking that was a possibility. I think that may have just gone to the back end of possibilities for the anniversary, just because neither guy looked good. The only guy that looked good was Negro Casas, because even Solar versus Blue Panther, Solar looked so bad in the ring. I think Solar's starting to show a little more of his age in the ring. Blue Panther, I think the thing with Blue Panther was that he's so used to working with the younger guys, and or a mix of CMLL guys where it's the younger guys, and then maybe like a Negro Casas or somebody like that, where he's doing a little more in the ring, and the older guys weren't going to allow him to do that stuff. So he kind of like it didn't come across well. The crowd was very respectful to them, and the fact that I think the fact that they were honoring Negro Casas was enough for the fans. The highlight of this match, who would have thought the highlight would be Octagon hitting a tope suicida at Blue Panther? I mean, that may have been like, I can't remember the last time Octagon did a tope suicida to the outside. He might have done it in the past recently, but it's like, it's not something that I remember the way he did it in this match, where he nearly got hurt. I think he might have got hurt too, but that was pretty cool. Then Negro Casas pinned Fuerza Guerrera, but really, this match needed like an Ultimo Guerrero or somebody else to counter the team. It was rough. I think 1 fall would have been fine, especially because they were going kind of long, and I think they could have they probably could have been fine by doing 1 fall and probably given more time for him to celebrate. Earlier in the show, they brought out Christopher Daniels. They introduced him to the CMLL crowd. Christopher Daniels got to see Arena Mexico packed on Friday night. I think there were over 16,000 fans in attendance. Unfortunately for Christopher Daniels, he was not wrestling on that show. He wrestled on the Sunday show, and I'm pretty sure the Sunday show didn't even have 1,000 people in it, because from the photos that I've seen from the Sunday show, it did not look like it had too many people in the crowd. gotta be a big letdown for him to be from. He should have asked to work on that show. And maybe he could have worked. Maybe he could have replaced Fuerza or Atlantis or someone in this, or Octagon in the Negro Casas anniversary match. So the fifth match on the show was Volador Jr. beating Matt Taven to regain the NWA World Historic Welterweight title. We've had a couple, what was it, about less than a month, maybe like 2-3 weeks of Volador Jr. without a title. He dropped the welterweight title earlier in the year, and then he dropped the trios titles with Sky Team to the Guerreros Laguneros a couple months, I think 2 months ago, and a couple of weeks ago, just as I mentioned, him and Valiente dropped the tag titles to Terrible and Rush. He didn't. I don't even think he even has the UIPW title. Why are we not forming another promotion to give him another title? But I think that's what our concern was, that he was without a title. How was he going to hold his... The good thing is he started wearing those suspenders, so we didn't have to worry about him not having a belt to keep his trunks up, but or its tights, whatever he's wearing on, whatever outfit he decides to wear to wrestle. But this match I thought was pretty good. Matt Taven, I thought, looked far better in this match. I actually think Matt Taven versus Volador Jr. is a nice matchup. A good they give you a good match. I think Taven's pretty good. I think there's some people who will probably like, and I could understand that where they'll say he kind of feels like he's very generic, because I think nowadays if a guy isn't doing like a crazy dives or very technically sound, doing all these crazy moves and stuff, or isn't known for something that's special or different, I think that people kind of don't kind of just pass by it and look at them like as just a generic wrestler. I think he's okay. I wouldn't say he's at that. I don't think he's bad. I actually think he's good. He did a really good post match interview, and I think he did pretty well with that. I kind of wonder if maybe down the road his promos. I thought the promo he did afterwards, especially doing the fact that he's being interviewed by the Spanish media, and they're using a lot of broken English, and it's a little harder for them to like for a lot of, if you're not around a lot of Mexicans who speak broken English, you might not understand a lot of it. At least that's what a lot of Spanish speaking people think, that if they're speaking broken English they wouldn't understand. He was able to like still interact with them. I kind of think he might be a guy who down the road might actually be a pretty decent promo. And the match, like I said, the match was good. I think he did. He's a good opponent for Volador Jr., especially because he's willing to take some of the he understands the type of match that Volador Jr. wants. Volador Jr. tends to stick to the same formula. A lot of guys do that. It's not just Volador Jr. I would say the majority of wrestlers kind of stick to the same formula. It just depends on who they're wrestling that changes it up a bit. But and my opinion is, like, if you're using a formula that works for you and you can make it entertaining, that's fine. I mean, I don't think every single fan that's in attendance is watching every single one of your matches. They're not watching your Puebla or Tuesday, Guadalajara, every week, your 3 or 4 matches. It's, most of the fans attending are probably just going and watching you that one time. They might watch, if they're fans, they might watch you again the following week or a couple of weeks later. It's not a consistent thing. But I thought it was a good match. Really enjoyed it. There were moments where I thought maybe Volador Jr. wasn't going to win, but I think it was kind of funny because they started releasing lineups for the following week and Matt Taven was on the technical side, which it's CMLL. They do this all the time. They'll have like they still consider Rush a technical, so when they have the Ingobernables, they say it's a Relevos Increíbles match, so they could have done this with Matt Taven also. But the weird thing, I don't think they had them listed as Relevos Increíbles. So I think at some point they were going to turn him babyface for the rest of the tour, of his time in Mexico, as far as this current tour. And sure enough, as soon as Volador Jr. won the title, who should run in? Rush ran in and attacked Volador Jr. Matt Taven tried to stop him. Rush attacked Matt Taven. Roosh was gonna give Volador Jr. the drop kick of death in the corner, and Matt Taven made the save, and pretty much they've joined up, and I think they're already booked for the next week to be together. I think they're teaming up with King Phoenix against the Ingobernables. I think that's probably going to be a difficult match just because it's going to have Bestia del Ring in it, and he's not very good. But they've been able to pull off some okay matches out of this current run with LA Park. They've pulled off some decent stuff with Bestia in the ring, not because of his contribution, but more so because of guys figuring out how a way to use him. Yeah, so Taven now he's going to be a Technico. Although in the post match interview he kind of said he still would be like a rematch with a Volador Jr. I think that would be fine down the road, but that's or they'll probably do it on one of the other shows. I think that would be fine if they did it on one of those other shows. I don't know why they're doing so little on the other shows lately that although they did give Christopher Daniels a Sunday appearance, which it wasn't gonna matter for attendance, unfortunately, and it just made him look, he's gonna just work against a smaller crowd. The main event on this show, LA Park teamed up with King Phoenix and Penta Zero M to beat Rush and Mark and Jay Briscoe. The Briscoes, they making I think this was their, well, it definitely was their CMLL debut. I think it might have been their first match in Mexico, because I think they were booked once for a Crash show years ago, but I don't think they made it. It might have been the Crash or one of the other promotions that were booking them, and they didn't. They might have. You know what? I think they were pulled by CMLL when they were still with when Ring of Honor was told that they couldn't send them to It might have been the Crash, which is interesting because now I think they could probably use them. But this match, the other interesting thing was we had the technical trio of LA Park, King Phoenix, and Penta Zero M headlining this show a day after being the major focus of the AAA show, with Rey Fenix King as Phoenix being in AAA and Penta and LA Park working the main event on the AAA show. That was very interesting. It's very interesting because this is really changing. Because CMLL doesn't normally, they pretty much booked a main event that only had one of their own guys on it, and put over guys who aren't really CMLL guys. So it's really a change in course for the promotion. I'm sure there's going to be guys in the promotions that are probably like, we kind of wanted these guys in, but we probably weren't expecting that we wouldn't be part of it. But it's one week, one Friday. It's not going to be. I'm sure they'll calm them down, especially like they're doing next week with King Phoenix teaming up with those guys, and I think Penta's working the semi-main event on that show also. So they're using them in different matches, and they're involved with CMLL guys. But this was a really wild match. The Briscoes. I really wish CMLL would have brought these guys years earlier, as soon as they started working this deal with Ring of Honor, because they actually fit in with the style, especially this match. Really fun match. You had Rush and LA Park doing their crazy brawl all over the place, brawled into the crowd, used weapons, threw stuff at each other, threw each other into the chairs. I could almost imagine CMLL just panicking, and you could tell they were panicking because they were taking a lot of wide shots, zooming out, and doing a lot of stuff like focusing on what was going in the ring, especially if the other guys were in there. And the Briscoes focused more feuding with the Lucha Brothers. I thought that was a really good. They added to it. Really fun match, crazy brawl. I like the fact that at one point they kind of had LA Park and Rush kind of get out of the ring and let the Lucha Brothers and the Briscoes do their thing for a couple of minutes. Then they stepped out of the ring and they brought back what everybody wanted to see was Rush versus LA Park, and they delivered. Really crazy end to it with Rush unmasking. He had LA Park pinned a couple of times, but then he told the ref to stop the count, and he ended up unmasking him and earning the DQ, and then I think he fouled the referee also. So he went all over and just decided that the match was over. As Rush and LA Parks are setting up their thing, you pretty much just see the Briscoe brothers and Lucha brothers leave the area, and Rush demanding the mask versus hair match at the anniversary. LA Park saying he wants it too. It all comes down to CMLL deciding if that's what they want, and Rush then ups the ante and says that he wants the match to be a no DQ match. And so then LA Park responds and tells him that he also wants the no DQ, a super libre match. But he vows that this time, what he did to Rush the previous singles match that they had, where he just left him laying, LA Park claimed that he had pity for him, felt bad for him, and he did not want to destroy him. So he vowed that at the anniversary, if they have this match, he is not going to have any pity for him, and he's going to destroy him. And I thought that was a cool way to end the show. Really good show. Highly recommend watching this show. Probably one of the better. It might have been the best show of the year so far, just because the top two matches were good, and then there were a couple of matches underneath the opener, and I think it was the third match were really good. And the Legends match, I think you would enjoy the ceremony. If you didn't watch it, you'd at least enjoy the ceremony. And I think there was some nostalgia into the Legends match from seeing Negro Casas and them in there. Although I thought, like I said, it should have just gone one fall. But overall, I thought the show was good, really enjoyable, highly recommended. Yeah, a good way to continue to build up to the anniversary. Unfortunately, we did not get any more confirmation of what the main event is going to be at the anniversary. LA Park and Rush still want the mask versus hair match. I think everybody wants that. That's what all the fans want. There was a period of time where LA Park wasn't appearing on CMLL's Friday shows, so a lot of people were wondering since he was appearing on AAA shows, there were a lot of people worried that he might have that might have been it, that we weren't going to get more LA Park. So what CMLL did was they made this video. They made this video promoting the anniversary show, and then they had LA Park vowing that he would be on the anniversary show. He did not say it would be a mask for the mask versus hair match, just said he would be on the show. And then over the next couple of weeks, they announced Caristico would be on the anniversary show, as would Mystico and Dragon Lee. That was announced on one of the Informa shows. They haven't announced anyone else. I'm guessing they will announce someone else this week. I think they're just doing that right now because they can't really announce the main event, because I do think they want to have LA Park versus Rush. But I think they're worried that since LA Park's going to be in the Poker the Asses main event for AAA, they don't want to him drop his mask and they pretty much are out of that, and it's just a hair versus hair match. I don't think they want to just go to that. They don't want to build up a mask versus hair match and then it doesn't happen. And then there's a lot of people who are worried that it's going to end up being a cage match, or it's going to involve Clan Chaos and all these other possibilities that they don't really want. They don't want Atlantis versus Fuerza. Although I do think, given our choice between a cage match or Atlantis versus Fuerza, I think I would rather have Atlantis versus Fuerza, just because I think that can be carried by the crowd reaction, and because these two guys are pretty much two of the bigger masked matches remaining, in Lucha Libre. But there's also the negative that they're not very good in the ring right now. Atlantis has really slowed down since the injury, and Fuerza Sagrada did not look good in that match. And when Negro Casas wasn't sure he could get a good match out of you, I would kind of worry about that. I don't think that's going to be at the top of the list. I could see that being a Dos Leyendas type of main event, where it's not there's less expectations for that, but who knows. So other CMLL news during this time, Puma King left CMLL and became an independent. I don't know if anybody was really surprised by it, because I think you could kind of there's only so many years you could remain in CMLL, especially when you're that talented, and work the second or third match on the card and not see any progress, and seeing other guys younger guys pass over you, which I think, when a guy like Templario or Dinamitas or certain guys like that, I can understand passing you by. But then when you have like, when they had a chance to like Luciferno moving up to be a part of the Hijos del Infierno, or Bestia del Ring, who at one point was kind of in that same level at one point, and then when Ingobernables, he got thrown into that group. All of a sudden, he's in the main event mix. Guys like Cranio, certain guys like that, when they're passing you by, if you're like at that age of 28, 30-ish, you kind of have to start thinking that maybe it's time to move on and do something else. It's not the end. It doesn't mean you're gonna never be able. I think him being a Casas, it's good. The door is always gonna be open for him to return to CML if he ever decides to do that. But I think right now, I think it's better for him to go elsewhere, and and like what we'll talk about in a bit. That's what's gonna happen. Ultimo Ninja was basically, he had his final match a couple of weeks ago, and it was pretty much, he basically said he was heading for other projects, but it's pretty much NXT. No confirmation, no word from Garza Jr. if he's going yet. I think everybody expects him to leave at some point, but at the moment, still not sure. The other person that's making a jump, I should probably mention it during the AAA segment in the show, which we'll get to in a bit. This past Friday, we also got the news that another longtime AAA wrestler, El Picudo, Arturo Hernandez Herrada, passed away due to complications from diabetes at the age of 51. Many of you who have been watching AAA or casually may have watched it every so often, may have seen Picudo. He started off when the promotion started back in 1992. He was one of the first guys who was with the promotion, and he was there for a very long time. He's a cousin of Antonio Peña and Marisela Peña Roldan. If you remember early on, he wore a mask. They gave him kind of a British punk rocker type of gimmick, and he had a British mask. It had a British kind of design to it, and he was basically the first big rival for Hijo del Perro Aguayo back in '95, and he dropped his mask to Hijo del Perro Aguayo. Then he kind of was part of they had him teaming up with like Heavy Metal and Psychosis and all those guys. And then when everybody started jumping ship from AAA, when Conan was with WCW and starting up Promo Azteca, and guys were either going to WCW or going with Conan to Promo Azteca, he kind of was one of the guys who was given another opportunity as part of a new faction called Los Vatos Locos with Charlie Manson, Mayflowers, and Enigma. And later on, they had other guys like Silver Cat and Espiritu later joined that group. And there were a couple of other guys that joined up, but they weren't really at the level of the original group. The original group had a feud with, they feuded with a lot of different technical trios and factions, quartets. But their main feud was really when, I would guess like late 98, early 1999, they started feuding with Los Vipers, which was the Psychosis, the one that's that had issues with AAA, and then the second Psychosis, basically Hysteria. I'm trying to think who else was in the Mosco de la Merced and Maniaco were in it. I know Abismo Negro was also in the group, but he wasn't in this feud because Abismo Negro was pretty much in the main event group with Cibernetico and Electroshock, and they were doing their thing with other people. But the other Vipers, the quartet, they were feuding with these guys, and they had this really crazy feud. Wild. I guess if the best word to describe a Vipers versus Vatos Locos match, Atomicos match, it was basically a clusterfuck. It looked like a clusterfuck because it just looked so like random and like you couldn't figure out what it was, and it just was a wild brawl. And they had these really crazy feuds. I think it might have been Verano Escándalo where they hung Charlie Manson. They basically the arena they were in had like God, I don't know what you would call them, but they had kind of like they had a way to they had something that was hanging from the rafters. Well, rafters really, or something like that. And so they threw a rope on it, and then they tied Charlie Manson's his legs to it, and then they just the Vipers just hung him. So they just had him hanging from there. It's one of the wildest brawls, but like if you were a fan of this stuff or of AAA and you kind of like, because AAA had some bad stuff, but there was some bad stuff that was actually kind of like you would enjoy it, and then they had some good stuff that was really great that people would always dismiss because they just thought AAA was crap. But there was some good stuff in AAA, and then there was the okay stuff that you had to be a fan or appreciate it to really enjoy it. And I thought the Vipers versus Vato Loco stuff, I think that kind of fell into that category where you just thought it was cool to watch because the way Peña created this group, they had this cool vibe to it because they really did look like it kind of looked like a motley crew of guys, the Vatos Locos, and then the Vipers kind of look like this really like twisted, like they looked like they were like from space or something. And so I thought it was a nice combination. They had this really cool look, and Picudo was a big part of that. He later on, after he left briefly. He left AAA, I think in 2012. Actually, I think he left in 2009, the first time. And then he came back and was part of the, I think it might have been earlier than that, but he left around that time, and then he came back as part of the Inferno Rockers. He was Devil Rocker, with Machine Rocker being Taurus now, and then Soul Rocker. If you don't know that, it's basically Tito Santana too. And I call him Tito Santana too because to me, Tito Santana will always be the WWF guy. And although AAA called him Tito Santana Jr. on one of their recent TV tapings, so maybe they decided to join me in differentiating him from the Tito Santana from WWF. He left, and then they left, and he kept doing the Inferno Rockers on the Independents. Yeah, he died way too young. 51 is way too young to go. It's unfortunate. But I know his son's still. I think his son Picudo Jr. is he's on the Independents. I don't think I've seen a lot of his work, but it's this year has been horrible for deaths in wrestling. I think a lot of times I've been writing more obits this year than I think it might have been like what the last year or so, like the last couple of months. Within the last year, I've written more obits than I did ever before. I hope they do a little. I know CML didn't do anything because they don't normally do it for guys who they never work for them. But hopefully AAA does something to like remember him because he was there for a long time, and he was, like I said, he was related to the Peña family. So getting back to more AAA has had a couple of good shows within the last couple of weeks. They had a show on the weekend that I was in Las Vegas, and I think it was the July 29th show, and I'll talk about that later on, but I didn't watch it because they started early, and I was on my way back from Las Vegas. I probably should have taken the Cubs fans' advice and watch it as we drove along, but I probably would have gotten car sick, and who knows what would have happened. I wasn't driving. One of our friends was driving, so we only experienced one near-death experience on our trip back to Los Angeles from Las Vegas. Anyway, the July 21st show from AAA was basically the World of Warcraft presenting AAA versus Elite. This was the show where they had were going to do AAA versus Elite, so they're going to have Elite talent versus AAA guys, and they were also going to have the AAA fans would wear red and the Elite fans would wear blue. Well, unfortunately, not everybody got the memo, and it was very confusing. Some people actually wore red. There were a couple people who wore blue, but it wasn't nearly as I don't think it was as I don't think it was what they were hoping it would be. Especially, I don't know about the World of Warcraft people. I actually was watching, I can't remember. There was something else that I was watching that day, or I actually missed this show. I ended up watching the show later on. They actually were streaming it. One of the video game, I think whoever handles the World of Warcraft, I don't know if it was the World of Warcraft people, but it was a video game Twitch channel that was airing it later on. I think they were from Spain or something, because the guys had these accents, but they weren't wrestling fans, so you heard them mark out to the weirdest stuff, and at the same time they would react to stuff that was like kind of like, you know, they kind of just reacted to it a little bit stranger than, you know. But it was fun. I thought it was okay. I didn't mind the announcing for that. But this show was actually pretty good. The show actually the show opened with a women's match. It had Fabi Apache, La Hiedra, and Vanilla Vargas as Team AAA. Vanilla Vargas, at this point, I think this might have been her first or second AAA show. So I mean, it seemed kind of weird for her to be representing AAA, and representing Team Elite were Kira, Zeuxis, and Lady Maravilla. I thought this match was pretty good. The finish was really bad. It was bad enough where Zeuxis posted it in all her social media and made fun of how she wasn't pinned. I think that's the Observer mentioned that the AAA wasn't pleased with Zeuxis. I think it might have not been her performance. It might have been her reaction to the finish by mentioning how bad a finish it was. Basically, what happened was Fabi was getting a near fall on Zeuxis, and Hiedra, the first time, this was the first attempt, and Hiedra and Vanilla ran back in, thinking that was the finish. Only Zeuxis actually kicked out, and so then they actually stepped right back out, realizing how dumb they looked. And then Fabi then tried to pin Zeuxis again. Zeuxis kicked out again, and then the third time, Fabi got the pin. But Zeuxis' shoulders were noticeably not on the apron, so on the mat. So it just looked really bad. They still counted the pin, and it just looked really bad. I kind of have a feeling that Zeuxis wasn't going to go back to AAA anyway. So it's like, I think whatever AAA thought of her, she didn't really care because she probably wasn't planning on going back. This past week, right after that, they announced that she was going to be in the Mae Young Classic. So, you know, as you might recall, when Zeuxis was on Informa, she's done other interviews where she said her departure from CMLL wasn't going to be something where it was like forever. She basically was saying that it could be anywhere from 3 months, 6 months to a year, maybe longer. Basically, her hint was that, you know, she was going to be gone because of the NXT, the Mae Young Classic. So that basically she wasn't going to do what Princess Suhei was doing at what she did last year, where she was still working CMLL. I think she might have been off just a couple of weeks and did the Mae Young Classic. I think Zeuxis decided not to do. I think she decided to more concentrate on working out and working against a variety of opponents on the independent scene, rather than being in the same trios match over and over again and not really getting booked that much by CMLL. So basically, she what was it, 3 months? If she ends up doing the Mae Young Classic and doesn't impress, she's gone for 3 months. If she impresses, maybe she sticks around a little longer, 6 months. You know, maybe she gets noticed but in the US or something, and maybe she starts working more in the US. You know, she ends up, she'll stick around. You know, if she gets some interest from WWE, maybe she decides sticks it out as an independent, waits for the call to go back to WWE. Because I think, you know, usually I think they do those tournaments, and then they like, maybe some stick around, others are kind of kept in the process of, you know, we'll call you back. And, you know, I think that's what's going to happen with Zeuxis. Who knows, you know. But good for her that she's trying to do something more beyond just doing the same old women's trios match. And, you know, honestly, if it doesn't work out, she could always go back to that. And, you know, I think the one difference is at least she gets to work with somebody different. Mystique's now there, and Maligna. It'd be nice, like, if there were like at least a different variety of women in the promotion. But, you know, even with those new women, there's still the same women in the promotion in CMLL. I think how we say this on every podcast, it always ends up with this stuff. So after that weird finish, Lady Shani ran in and attacked Fabi Apache, and she used the kendo stick and just beat her up. They had this horrible camera shot of Hijo de Tirantes blading Lady Shani, and it looked so bad. The second match was Los Traumas versus La Máscara and Maximo. Los Traumas beat beat La Mascara Maximo. Match was, a pretty boring match, about what you expect from Mascara Maximo. Traumas did the best they could. They basically did their moves and stuff like that, but it wasn't really that interesting. Mascara got upset at Maximo, left the ring. Mamba came out to console him. Then Brian Cage and Killer Cross ran out and destroyed everyone. Conan, Jack Evans, and Teddy Hart all came out to taunt the fans. Vampiro then came out wearing a neck brace, trashed Conan, and then Mad attacked Vampiro. Remember, he's wearing a neck brace at this point. OGT's made the save. Suddenly, Vampiro's okay. He's not wearing a neck brace. Suddenly, this attack by Mad somehow miraculously cured Vampiro, and he was okay. And he somehow came up with the idea of him being he somehow is the biggest OGT. OGT, for those who don't know, is basically ojete, which is asshole. So Vampiro said he was the biggest asshole and suggested that he team up with the ojetes, the OGTs. They work together, and somehow there's a possibility that they might end up feuding with Mad. They are feuding with Mad, and there is a slight chance that we might get that at Triple Mania, some sort of match, and Vampiro will be part of it. Hopefully he isn't, but yeah, we're gonna get that. And I thought that match was that whole segment. I thought the segment was okay with them building that stuff up, but I'm not really a big fan of Vampiro. I don't want to see Conan wrestle either. I mean, he's had his moment. I love how Verno right afterwards said that Conan had his moment 50 years ago, which he said he should be doing more stuff backstage. Stop worrying about getting back into the ring. So basically we had that. After that, the third match was Hijo de LA Park and Taurus representing Team Elite, beating Team AAA, which was represented by Aerostar and Argenis. Aerostar was great. Taurus was really good. They had a couple of moments where they slipped off ropes and messed up dives. Them two, and even Hijo de LA Park and Argenis. It was kind of a sloppy match, but it wasn't that bad. Parca Negra ran out and attacked Hijo de LA Park, and that was followed by Killer Cross and Cage once again attacking everyone. I think everybody thought at that point that Cage or Cross were going to be in the main event as the surprise for Elite, but they were attacking an Elite guy, so maybe that was also something that wasn't in the plan. That should have given us a hint that they weren't going to be the ones that were going to be in the main event. But at that point, I think everybody thought Cage was going to be in the main event. Having been the one guy that Elite couldn't book, if you all remember when Elite was doing when they were dealing with CMLL, they weren't able to book Cage. The fourth match was Jack Evans and Teddy Hart representing Elite, beating Joe Leader and Pagano, Team AAA. This match was a total mess. The guys who were the video game guys that when they were showing because they had it as a replay on their YouTube channel, on their Twitch channel, and they really liked this match. They really enjoyed Pagano, Joe Leader, and the craziness of using tables and all that stuff that they were doing. This had a really horrible spot where Pagano was, I think Teddy Hart was going to attempt a Canadian Destroyer on Pagano on the outside of the ring apron, and Joe Leader drop kicked them, and somehow they ended up just doing it incorrectly, and Pagano landed head first on to the floor, and it looked really bad. He said he was okay afterwards, but it looked like it could have been a similar injury to Hiromu Takahashi, and when he took that spot, it looked really bad. The match itself, Jack Evans wrestled. His new thing is he wrestles with a cigarette in his mouth. I thought that was pretty amusing. Teddy Hart being Teddy Hart. Yeah, it was a okay match. I thought it was better than. I actually thought it was better than I was expecting, because this was one of the matches I was gonna skip. But those guys were so amusing when they were just who are these guys? Just really they were just in shock of what the guys were doing in the ring. So I thought, it wasn't as bad. The follow-up match, the match that followed that was the fifth match was Rey Scorpion and Tejano Jr. representing Team AAA, beating Team Elite of Golden Magic and Laredo Kid. This match was a bit of a mess because it was actually pretty good. it was actually pretty good, going well. And then somehow they decided middle of the match they had Cage and Cross run in and attack everyone. Really attack Golden Magic and Laredo Kid. It was just a mess. This was, and it was bad because they were actually having a pretty good match. Probably would have been the best match on the card. La Parca ran in with a group of AAA guys, and it was like the most random group of guys that you could find from AAA, and all these these guys who nobody cares about run out, and Cage and Cross are supposed to be scared of them. And who attacks Cage and Cross? Murder and Monster Clown. Actually, no, it was actually Dave the Clown, and I think it might have been, I don't remember what other clown it was, but they attacked them, and they were supposed to sell for them. Black Taurus then makes the save for Cage and Killer Cross after he was attacked. Made no sense. So this happens. The ref doesn't DQ anyone, and the match continues. And what ends up happening was Tejano Jr. pinned Golden Magic, and they end up being awarded the World of Warcraft Championship. Just one belt for both guys. Really weird. I didn't understand it. That part of it I didn't understand because I don't really follow World of Warcraft. I didn't even know they were going to give them a belt. I'm sure they mentioned it earlier, but like I said, I was watching this through the on replay, and yeah, so they messed up this match. I thought it was a really good match at certain points, but the way they did that, where they had to run in, and it just ruined it. So we get to the main event, the sixth match on the show, and it ends up being Team Elite, LA Park, Electroshock, and the Luchador Sorpresa, Puma King. Puma King gets to work a main event match the first time outside of CMLL. And I think that's something that I think a guy at his level had to realize. When you're good, when you're talented, you have to go work elsewhere for that, for like even for AAA guys, because even like a guy like Rey Fenix and Penta et cetera, when they were in AAA, they weren't really the main event guys. I think Penta might have, like, his one main event was going to be the show he left, like the show, the final show he worked before he left to join the Crash or become an independent. And so, like, I think that's the same thing with Puma King. I think he had to realize that, in CML's programming department's eyes, he was always going to be that second or third match guy. By him going to AAA and working a main event, and now maybe getting independent work, then he raises his profile for should he ever decide to go to not just return to CML, but maybe like be part of the independent guys who show up in CML. Maybe he ends up working with Volador Jr. on an independent show. Who knows? But yeah, he was the surprise on this show. They end up beating Dr. Wagner Jr., Hijo del Fantasma, and Psycho Clown, who were representing AAA. It was a crazy brawl. What you expect from LA Park. Psycho Clown played the role of Roosh to LA Park in AAA because he was brawling. They were just throwing each other all over the place, brawling in the crowd. Puma King got to work with Ray Wagner, which I thought was kind of cool. Hijo del Fantasma drew the short straw and had to work with Electroshock a lot. Electroshock really didn't do much. Hijo del Fantasma didn't either. I thought Puma did pretty well in the match. I think the one thing is that I think where Puma King's probably going to excel, he's a better fit as a main event guy, like in CML, because he gets to work with like the type of technicals that he can actually he could have a good match with. I think in AAA it's going to be weird because if he's in higher card matches, he's going to work with guys who kind of don't fit what he does well. I think where Puma King's going to excel is in the US independents, in singles matches. I think that's really where he's going to have to show. He's going to get to show more. I think he would have done more if Tiger jumped with him. They would have been a great tag team, on the independents in Mexico. But I think he's better off doing this as a singles wrestler. But I thought this was a pretty good brawl. The Phantasma ended up turning on his team. He ended up attacking Psycho Clown and fouled him. And LA Park. I think LA Park was the one that got the pin on Psycho Clown. Overall, I thought this was a really good main event. Actually, probably one of the better AAA shows of the year, just because it didn't have that great match that were there were a couple of other shows that had really great openers, but then the rest of the show just slowly started to like slow down, and it wasn't as good. This was probably one of the better shows just because the main event was really strong and it finished off strong. Yeah, so this was a fun show. If you want to watch it, it's available on their Twitch channel. I think it's probably already going to be starting to be at some point. It's going to start getting posted on their YouTube channel, so you could always watch it there. The only difference is it might be edited down. There might be some stuff that doesn't end up on the show, but overall, I thought it was a good show. The show I missed on the 29th. The only thing I watched was the trios match that had Poder del Norte versus Aramis, El Bandido, and Flamita. Poder del Norte won the match. I thought it was a pretty good match. I think they did more with Poder del Norte. Like, they're trying to make them come across as a dominant trio, and I think that it kind of worked that way. I don't think the technicals got to show that much that they're accustomed to showing. It kind of felt more like they were there. They did a couple cool dives, but really it was more about Poder del Norte showing their dominance and continuing the streak of winning matches. But overall, I thought that was a good match. I don't think I missed much because from what I read from other people, or from what other people told me, that the show wasn't that great compared to the previous show. And the show that followed, the August 2nd show from El Palenque de la Feria de San Marcos in Aguascalientes, I thought this was a really good show. It aired on a Thursday. I thought this was fun. Actually, I think this was, they've AAA, normally I skip these AAA shows. Lately, they've actually made me kind of like want to watch them. They've kind of grabbed me with the opening matches. The first two matches, they always kind of come up with something that's really good. But yeah, like I said, this show on Thursday was really good. So the first match on the show was Arcángel Divino, Black Destiny, Genio del Aire, beating Black Danger, Mirage, and Último Maldito. I thought this match was pretty good. Not as good as their debut match from earlier in the year. Back when we called them the Crash Guys. We still call them the Crash Guys because that's pretty much what they're still, the Crash undercard guys. That's where they made their name. And they're still being kept together for the most part. Although I think AAA sees more in Arcángel Divino than the other guys. This match actually had a really cool start with Genio del Aire doing something really crazy to start the match. I think it was a dive, and from that point forward, it was pretty crazy. Arcángel Divino had some good moments, but then he also was sloppy at times. But overall, I thought it was a good match, very enjoyable. They actually let this go through, they actually let it have a conclusion, which is also positive for it. I think this show didn't have any run-ins like the AAA versus Elite show. That one was a little too much with Killer Cross and Cage. After this match, Fenix made a surprise appearance, and he was immediately confronted by Konnan, Juvi, and Taurus. Konnan wanted to know if Fenix was with them or against them because they've been friends for a long time, and he offered him a Mad T-shirt. Fenix accepted it, put it on, and then attacked Juvi and Taurus, and he basically turned down being a part of Mad. Very reminiscent to the Diamond Dallas Page segment against the NWO when they offered him an NWO t-shirt. He put it on and then he turned on them. Very similar. So, that's kind of what you're going to expect from Konnan's booking, where he's going to use stuff that has worked in the past. Now it's being done in Mexico in front of a different audience. A new generation of fans, really, also. Vampiro then came out, and he made a few changes to the show. He announced that Drago was still recovering from his shoulder injury. So he changed that match into a tag match, which was Aerostar and Vanilla Vargas against Chica Tormenta and Parca Negra. Then he decided to move from that match. He moved Flamita and Bandido into a three-way match with Fenix, with the winner of the match getting to decide their Triple Mania match. And Flamita and Bandido did not get to say what their match would be. But Fenix, in this segment, mentioned that if he won the match, he wanted a match with Jeff Jarrett for the AAA World Mega Heavyweight title. I kind of think they probably should have kept that to after he won the match. I think that's where they messed up, where he announced it, so it kind of became predictable, because there was no way whatever Flamita or Bandito said, even if it was a better match, it wasn't going to compare to Rey Fenix demanding a title match against the top heel in the promotion at the moment. One of the top heels in the promotion. And they probably could have picked better stuff, but that's the way it worked. And that was something that changed, and really I think that kind of changed the way the crowd reacted to the show, because they kind of got quiet from that point forward, and they were very excited for the angle, but the show itself, the matches themselves, they didn't get a good crowd reaction. The Aguascalientes crowd was very dead. The third match was Poder del Norte, Carta Brava Jr., Mocho Cota Jr., and Tito Santana. AAA called him Tito Santana Jr. in the Titantron, or whatever they call it, the big Tron, the big screen. They beat Angelical, Astrolux, and Hijo del Vikingo. This was pretty good, but the technicals didn't really get to do as much. It was more of a beatdown from again, another match where Poder del Norte showed that they were the dominant trio. I think if they did a great job of building them up at the, while the technicals didn't really get to show as much. Will be interesting to see who they get later on that becomes their main rivals. But this was a pretty fun match. Overall, it advanced whatever you want to do with Poder del Norte, which is make them a dominant trio. And one of these groups of technicals is going to get a shot at the belts I'm guessing at Triple Mania. But they were really, this was an okay match. The fourth match was Aerostar and Vanilla Vargas beating Chica Tormenta and Parca Negra. This was actually pretty good. Aerostar just did a couple of amazing spots in the match. Some stuff that just were just amazing. Parca Negra, really good bass. This guy's pretty good. I mean, I think that's what I noticed in this match, that he's actually really good. Far better than I think Zoro was the one that played the role at one point, and he just wasn't at that level. Vanilla Vargas, she's got a good body, good physique, and good look. So I kind of think she's going to be the girl that AAA is going to get more behind. They're probably going to push her a little more. I thought Chica Tormenta was a little better in the ring, but Vanilla was still very good. I don't think she's. I think if you put her she kind of physically, she kind of reminded me of Reina Isis, but she's like 10 times better than Reina Isis in the ring. But she still had some moments where she was a little sloppy, but still overall it was a good match. The guys were able to carry the bulk of the match, and the women were actually pretty good as well. The fifth match had Hijo de LA Park teaming up with Monster Clown and Murder Clown to beat Argenis, Maximo, and La Mascara. Maximo and La Mascara continue to have issues. La Mascara has already said that he plans on forming his own version of the Ingobernables in AAA, and he's going to call him the Ingober AAA, which is an absolutely horrible name. Totally, and of all the Ingobernables, La Mascara is probably the worst one out of all of them, because he just doesn't have charisma. And but he was asked in an interview what guys he thought about possibly adding to their group, and he mentioned possibilities: Hijo del Fantasma, Rey Escorpion, who in CMLL he had issues when they put Rey Escorpion in Ingobernables. The whole angle was that he and La Mascara didn't get along, and now apparently he's okay for him to be in the group. And Tejano Jr. was also mentioned. I think there was someone else that was also mentioned. I think there was 3 or 4 guys who were mentioned, but Pagano was the other one that they mentioned, which would be Pagano would probably be the second worst, because Bestia del Ring I still think he's worse than Pagano. That's really, although Pagano might actually be worse than Bestia. It's a debate we could have at some point. But anyway, during the match, like I said, La Mascara and Maximo had issues. Murder Clown ends up turning on his partners, and he somehow got the win for his team, but he ended up siding with Maximo and Mamba, who came out to just defend Maximo from La Mascara. So apparently Murder Clown is going to be a Técnico. Monster's going to be a heel. I'm guessing, I don't know if they're going to feud them or they're just going to have them do different things. I think I think Murder at one point had something going on with someone else. I actually don't remember that because it's AAA, and whatever happened like before Conan returned is probably like already forgotten. So who knows? The sixth match was the three-way match between Flamita, Bandito, and Fenix. Fenix ended up winning. Really good match. The crowd was dead for it, but really good. I really enjoyed it. If this match happened in front of a livelier crowd, it probably would have been one of the match of the year candidates. But unfortunately, it happened here, and it kind of killed it. It kind of ruined it a little bit. But I thought it was a good match. I really enjoyed it. Phoenix getting a shot. I think Phoenix announcing that he got that shot kind of made it a little too predictable as far as what was going to happen. Because like I said, the other two guys, I mean, I know Bandito said he would have liked, his dream would be to team up with Rey Mysterio, which he's going to do. I think he's doing that in All In. So it's like, he couldn't top that anyway. So, and Flamita, I don't know what he would have asked for. But I thought overall it was a really good match. Very, it's amazing what we're getting right now from AAA and CMLL, the possibilities of matches we could get. The only difference is like with AAA, we're getting really good undercard matches, and in CMLL, we're kind of getting that one opening match that is horrible, so we just skip it. Other than the good shows like when Templar and Adas or those guys are in the opener, usually we're getting like Leono or Nitro or Apocalypse and the Star Junior being forced to team with Oro Jr. versus like Cancerbero and Metallico or something. We're not getting the good matches, but it's fun that we're actually getting all these different matchups. Thanks to Phoenix, Penta, and LA Park getting to work anywhere, we're getting these type of matches, and I thought that was kind of cool to see this match on a AAA show. You would have probably seen this on the Crash. This could have been a match I'm pretty sure might have happened in the Crash, only we might have just had to been forced to watch it behind in a handheld of sorts. So, it's good to get it on in AAA. I wouldn't be shocked, maybe CMLL might actually do that match. Flamita and Bandito are independent, so you never know. The seventh match was the OGTs, Averno, Chessman, and Superfly beating Juventud, Guerrera, Killer Cross, and Taurus via DQ. Cross attacked the referee, Piero, to get the DQ, and they had a referee Copetes had to run in to basically call the match and gave the DQ. Then he got attacked, and then Mad just destroyed everyone. Averno got stretchered out. Averno's basically, I could totally see Averno being the undersized Technico, fired up Technico trying to get revenge on Mad. I think he plays the role. He would play the role well. He's a guy who I think AAA's really done a really good job with him this year, letting him cut more promos, letting him do a little more. The Poder del Norte feud really brought the best out of him, and I think he's going to do a lot with these guys because I think he fits that role. The undersized guy working against these big, or the evil heels, and I think it's gonna be a fun feud. We're gonna get some stuff that isn't gonna be that fun, but it's something different. It's gonna be something that's enjoyable. The main event was LA Park teaming up with Pentagon Jr. to beat Psycho Clown and Pagano. I thought this was another good brawl. LA Park didn't want to team with Pentagon Jr. and he, it's funny, he didn't want to team with him. 24 hours later, he had to team with him in CMLL, so he was obviously okay with that, and he actually didn't attack him. But here in AAA, he did attack Pentagon Jr. and Psycho Clown, but then Pentagon Jr. was able to pin Psycho Clown when he pulled off the mask. This was actually a pretty good brawl also. It's really strange to watch AAA and CMLL right now because with the three guys that I mentioned, Phoenix, Pentagon Jr. and LA Park being in both promotions, you're kind of like, they're each booking them a little differently in different situations. So, the other thing was like in Aguascalientes, LA Park was Psycho Clown was booed heavily. He was the one that was definitely not well liked there, and they were actually cheering more for LA Park and anyone but Psycho Clown. I thought that was interesting. But like I was saying with these guys working on AAA and CML, it kind of reminds me of the '80s, the '70s, the '80s, the old territorial days when you would get guys working as a face in one promotion, then a heel in the other in another territory. So it kind of feels that way right here. And I know people were trying to figure out the last time this might have happened, or to compare this, really to compare what's going on in CML and AAA, because these two promotions do not like each other. AAA is kind of a little more lax, and they kind of want to act. They actually want to work with. They want to use talent from CML for their shows because I think they kind of see the potential of a CML versus AAA feud. They actually see the potential, whereas CML doesn't really want to CML would rather have these low attendance shows than actually have to work with AAA. But they're kind of starting to see that the independents are actually a good way to draw more crowds. But really what LA Park and Phoenix and Penta El Cero M are doing, it's kind of reminiscent to what, could you imagine if 3 guys became independent wrestlers during the WCW WWE Monday Night Wars? Imagine if Hall, Nash, and Hogan. Let's say Hogan became an independent. Those 3 guys were allowed to work. One Monday they could work on Nitro, and the following Monday they could work on Raw, or some variation of those type of guys. Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, anybody. We never saw that. We knew more or less when a guy left, he was going to be in that promotion. It took a while, when Hall first showed up, there was still a little bit of guessing from fans. But once you've kind of figured it out that they were there full time, they were there full time. But that's kind of like what it would be like the reaction. And unfortunately, a lot of the media in the outside of Mexico isn't really following it. They don't really get how big a deal this is. And they're all headlining both shows. I mean, that's the other crazy thing. I mean, you're not really seeing they're the ones that are getting the stronger reaction than the hometown, the home team favorites, the Technicos or the Rudos, they're the ones that are getting the reactions. Psycho Clown isn't the most popular guy. He's the one that's getting booed instead of LA Park or Pentagon Jr. or, and in CMLL, it's LA Park that's getting the cheers and not Roosh. Roosh is getting the boos. So that's kind of the other interesting thing in this whole thing. It's a good time to be a Lucha fan because we're getting these, and not to mention the Crash. The Crash is now working again with CMLL, so they're actually getting CMLL talent. And somehow this past Friday, they were able to get, the WWE NXT Progress guy, the Euro guys, the European guys. They had Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, Trent Seven. They had a couple of other independent guys in there, and they had CMLL guys, Terrible, Dragon Lee, Soberano Jr., Stuka. They announced Titan. They announced Volador Jr. and Caristico for the next show. Sansón and Cuatrero, Hechicero. So this is kind of a cool thing. I'm guessing at some point we're gonna get Ray Horace in CMLL. Daga at some point possibly. The only thing is I don't think CML views Daga at that level. I think Ray Horace might actually, just because he has a mask, might actually get a better shot at that. Who knows about Bestia and Mr. 450, Messias. There's some guys there's some Crash guys that could possibly end up in going to CML, but right now I think they're focusing on Phoenix and Penta and LA Park as the 3 guys, and Hijo de LA Park and Clan Chaos kind of being the lower end guys. But there's so much that's going on right now in the independents in Lucha, and we're getting to see all these guys also showing up in the United States. It's amazing to watch wrestling right now, and you see Penta, El Cero M, and Rey Fenix. Not only are they on CML shows, but they're in AAA shows. They're on the Crash shows. They're on other Mexican independent shows. But they're also on Impact, Lucha Underground, MLW, PWG, all these other independent promotions in the United States. I mean, just the crazy time. The other thing that's going to be interesting is if New Japan is going to ask CML if they could use these guys. I'm talking about Penta and Rey Fenix. If they'll ask for them, that's going to be where we're going to starting to wonder what's going on. And there was also Penta Zero M, there were some rumors about WWE being interested in him and Rey Fenix. And, who knows? That could happen at some point. Penta's been having to answer that question. He answered it on Informa, which was really weird because, JCR was the one that brought it up. He didn't bring up WWE by name, but he brought up about possibly like going to a North American promotion full time. And Penta said that right now his intentions were to continue to work as an independent because he's really enjoying the opportunity to work in CMLL, AAA, and all. He didn't mention AAA, but he's he hinted to other promotions in Mexico and working in the independents in the United States. Plus, I don't think either one of them can because they have the Lucha Underground contracts. So overall, that's what's been going on in Mexico. A lot of enjoyable stuff. I think coming up, we're pretty much gearing up for Triple Mania and the anniversary show. I think for the next podcast, I kind of want to watch the Crash matches. Maybe talk about that. There's a couple of CML shows matches that happen during those shows that that everybody already knows are kind of like the skippable shows, but they had some good matches that I want to get caught up with. So I'll probably talk about that stuff on the next podcast. Hopefully we'll have more on Triple Mania and the anniversary. We're already getting some other matches. We're definitely getting some more appearances from everyone involved in these shows in CMLL and AAA. Should be fun. I have a feeling we're probably going to get at least a couple of... I would think we're going to get some announcements for the anniversary, at least the guys that will be appearing. I don't know if they're going to be announcing the matches because that's too early. And with Triple Mania, I think they've already announced... They announced the Poker de Aces. They announced the mask versus hair match between Lady Shani and Fabi. The Rey Fenix versus Jeff Jarrett match is apparently the third match that they've announced. There was supposed to be an Alberto El Patron match in Triple Mania, but that's pretty much been like forgotten. So, but I think that's possible. That's likely. It could happen. But I'm guessing there's at least going to be at least one more match announced before that show happens. I would assume, and I would guess there's going to be at least a few more surprises, and there's a lot that's going to happen during the upcoming weeks. So yeah, that's about it for this week. I hope everybody enjoyed the show. Again, you can follow us on LuchaWorld.com. All my social media is on there. I do have 2 Twitter accounts. If you want a lot of tweets, you follow my my own personal account at The Real Fredo. I recap Informa. I actually live tweet it. I don't know. Actually, I don't live tweet it. I 15 minutes late live tweet it because I need that break just so I could skip the ticket giveaways. And if you just want the Lucha reports and any updates from, just regular updates, you could follow the @LuchaWorld Twitter account. I'm also on Facebook, the Facebook page, LuchaWorld. Instagram, I haven't done anything on Instagram. I don't really use it because that's mostly about pictures. And I haven't posted any pictures. I'll probably post some pictures when I go to shows. I think Superboy's birthday bash is coming up, and although he said Sansone was going to be on the show, so I'll wait till he announces who the replacement will be before I decide if I'm going to that show. There's going to be a couple of other shows. I know Puma's going to work the September 7th here and also in PWG. I think the September 7th PCW Ultra show has Puma King, Penta Zero M, and Daga, and I think someone else is on that show. That looks pretty good. There's a lot of interesting shows going on. So what else is going on? Well, you could also check out the Patreon, patreon.com/LuchaWorld. I didn't do an update in July, but I've already been working on stuff for August. There will be a magazine write-up. I think next week it will be posted because it's one of the El Halcon magazines. The way the Lucha magazines work, the Boxy Lucha magazine is probably the easiest one for me to translate because half of it is boxing and the other half is Lucha. So it's not as big. The early ones, because I think now they do mostly just... I think they still do box, but it's half of it it being half, it's easier for me to do. It doesn't take that long, but I kind of want to like, I don't want to just go in order because then people are going to be like bored. I don't think there's that many people are interested in 1960s lucha. There might be some, but I think it's more about giving people variety. And right now, I think I did a couple of 80s ones, and this one is going to be from 1986. I think it actually starts with it covers it actually gives you like a bio. I think it gives you a bio on El Solitario, because it actually it's explaining how he got his name. So that's something I'm really excited to write about, to translate. And then it also has a couple of other things on Los Brazos, Triángulo de la Muerte. So that's the next one. I think the next Lucha Clásica might be a Rayo de Jalisco. Just thoughts on talking about his career. Pretty much what I wrote about on his obit. It'll probably be something like that, a little bit more expanded. And I think there's probably going to be. I'll probably say a little bit more. Just do a little bit more. I kind of want to do a show on something. I'm posting some YouTube videos, and if you notice, I'm almost getting to the point where I'm getting to the anniversary from 1990. I think that might be added to the Rayo show, since I think that kind of would be a cool thing to do. So I think that's probably the plan for the next Lucha Clásica. So that's what you have to look forward to on the Patreon. Other than that, I think that's about it. Again, I want to thank everybody for listening, and we should be back soon. Hopefully Kurt will be back also I might actually get Kurt to do the Lucha Clásica show. He's definitely not been watching a lot of current Lucha, so who knows? I think he'll probably be on the next one also, because if we go to a live show, we'll probably just recap that as well. Because I think people like to hear about road trips and stuff like that, because not only is the show interesting, but you also get to meet you get to see a lot of people, and you get to tell stories about some of the people you meet at these shows, some of the stuff that happens at these shows. So yeah, that should be that's what's coming up. Again, thank you again, and we'll talk to you guys again real soon.